The secret to why bees die after big earthquakes. You heard it here first. Spread the message fast and far. When the unwashed masses wake up, the evil 666 gang will have to flee the country quickly. The God of the Gentiles is getting very, very angry. So I will reveal a hidden order that we cannot see. And of course, the government does not want you to know this secret. There is an invisible electric force, an electrical force, which we will call FiFi, because the number affiliated with this energy is the number 55. So when they send us a message, I'm talking about the higher powers. When you see the number 55, that is affiliated with the energy, the FiFi energy. Some people might call them angels. 55 is also the number of the angels. Now remember, when it comes to building things, when it comes to humans, and when we try to make or build things, all we are really doing is copying God's natural creations, God's miracles. You can call this force also a higher power. So think about 5G or Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, which humans built. Wi-Fi is invisible, and so is FiFi. So all the humans are doing when they created Wi-Fi is copying what God has already had created millions of years ago. FiFi. Okay. We're just copying nature. So this invisible FiFi electrical current is normally shaped like DNA. Life is a spiral. When God created life, DNA, it's in a spiral form. You think of the infinity symbol. And if you really want to do some more research on this, go back and research what Professor Lorentz, I believe he was with MIT, and what he figured out in the 1960s about weather patterns. He put all the numbers into some brand new computers that he was privy to. Now these were primitive computers, but nonetheless he figured out that when he put these numbers in there and when tracking what he thought were random weather numbers. So he thought when he started his experiment by putting these numbers through a computer that they were random numbers. They were random statistics. What it turned out very surprised him to no end. It turned out to have a pattern. And when you look at those weather patterns that Professor Lorentz came up with, that the powers to be today are still denying. Even the government denies these weather patterns that Lorentz figured out. But they look just like the infinity. They look just like the DNA spiral. Okay? So even weather is connected to the DNA infinity spiral pattern, and this energy flows that we call FiFi. This is God's energy. He controls everything through this energy. We're going to call it FiFi. This energy flows like a spiral. It flows like the infinity pattern. And we even know this happens in weather if you study Professor Lentz. Now, the government doesn't want you to know about this, okay? The bottom line is the higher power, if you want to say God, go ahead. The higher power has control of our matrix, our very DNA, by this invisible FiFi energy control force. Now, God can change this energy anytime he wants. So if he wants to change the pattern, it doesn't have to be in an infinity pattern. But when everything's going fine, when your DNA is working perfect, when the infinity flow is working perfect the way God wants it to, everything's fine. But if God puts a break in that, if God can change the flow of FiFi, trust me, the higher power can change the flow. And when the higher power changes the flow of the energy, things die. Not only humans die, but bees die. Now God sends us warnings. Yes, the God of the Gentiles is getting very, very angry, but he is a just God, and he is sending us warnings. And these warnings are earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, and all of these weather patterns are controlled by the FiFi energy. So what are the implications of this extreme weather patterns, whether it be tornadoes or hurricanes or super strong earthquakes? What are the implications? Well, a lot of people will tell you, oh, that the military and the government is in control of the weather. Whatever small control, okay, yes, the military is experimenting with things like HARP and other weather control systems, chemtrails, whatever. The military is experimenting with them. Whatever small, tiny, small control over the weather that you think the military has, trust me, God has a zillion times more power. So when I told you that the God of the Gentiles is getting angry, yes, he's getting angry. How dare you mess with his weather patterns? He is so angry with these people who have taken control over America. We've called them all kind of names, the 666 gangs. I'm tired of calling them names. You know how evil they are. They are now, you hear these Epstein stories. Epstein and his island, sex islands. I mean, these people in charge are evil. And God is sending us messages. So the implications are, when you get these tornadoes and these hurricanes and these vicious storms, these are warnings from God for sure. I mean, I'm talking about the super strong ones. But what is the biggest threat, the biggest implication? And God sends these messages to us through numbers also. There are some of us who receive messages through numbers. We'll talk about that in a moment. But there is no life on earth without bees, I repeat. If you take nothing else away from this conversation, remember this. There is no life on earth without bees. When the bees are gone, we are all gone. They pollinate the plants. This is a warning of all warnings. You see, the matrix we live in is controlled by an invisible. Now this is you can call it a low voltage, stealthy amps power source that runs in a circular infinity spiral pattern. We've already talked about that. And it revolves around from the sun into the earth. The moon acts as a grounding source. Now this is a little bit too complicated for most of us, so we won't get into it. And then this is of this power source we call FiFi. It acts in a way, it flows in an infinity pattern that is not understandable to humans at this time. Why don't we talk about something we can understand? It's very simple. Remember the first earthquake was a 6.5 on the Richter scale? Not an accident. Remember the second big earthquake of that week was a 7.1 earthquake on the Richter scale? Just add them up. 6.5 plus 7.1 gives you 13.6. 13 is the unlucky number. And we know 6 is the evil number. God is sending us a message, even through the numbers. Every single thing that happens, believe me, there's a number involved and there's a message. We just don't see it. I just recently started seeing these numbers. But when you look at the numbers, I'll say it again. The first earthquake, 6.5. Second one, 7.1. Added up, 13.6. 13 is the unlucky number. 6 is the evil number. God says, get your shit together. This is a warning. I'm telling you. And the way this energy, we talk about FiFi, the way this energy is controlled is through numbers. The higher powers, God is in control of this energy, and also uses numbers to contact us, but 99.9 of percentage, about 99% of us humans are oblivious to these messages. Most of us do not see these messages through numbers. I never did. For 50 years I never saw that. It took me, I believe I was 51 years old when I first saw the first message through the numbers. I was stunned. No, I mean, believe me, you don't even know how stunned I was. The message, the number was 11313. That's when I received the messages. January 13th, 2013. That's when I got my first message. The humans who recognize these messages in number forms are the humans that the higher power focuses on. Okay? God is watching us. He's focusing on us. And the humans who pick up who actually see the messages and numbers, we are the ones that are going to have to go into action when the shit hits the fan. And you know what else the God of the Gentiles is angry at? Very angry. Most of us who actually see the number messages, we are downtrodden. We are abused in this current evil system. Most of us who see the messages through the numbers, we don't have big $180,000 a year government jobs. Hell no. Most of us are 1 week away from living under the bridge. We are in bad shape. God is extremely angry with this. Why are all the good people being punished? And why are all the evil people like Epstein? Why does Epstein have the billions? And why is Epstein putting these freaks in the positions of power in the government? God is angry beyond angry. Think about it. Do you think anybody in the government is seeing these messages through the numbers? Shit, no. They wouldn't be able to identify the message if it was 119 shoved up their ass backwards. No, these government people just collect their big taxpayer paid paycheck. They send their kids to private schools and they're protected, and they're protecting the evil people like Epstein. And I could go on, the list could go on and on. Hillary Clinton, the evil people, the list could go on and on. I'm not going to go off on a rant here. I'm just telling you that the bees are dying from a huge earthquake because there was a break in the FiFi energy. See, to be able to, for God to create these specially big events, these hurricanes, these tornadoes, these earthquakes, he has to change the energy flow. Remember, it flows in a circular spiral, infinity form. He changes that. He has the power to change it. And when he changes it, bad things happen like huge earthquakes. And when that DNA spiral changes, animals die. The bees are very sensitive to this. The bees are some of the most sensitive creatures on earth to this FiFi energy. God, and it's a reason for that, because when God gets angry and and you see these bees die, he says you better take notice, because when the bees are gone, you're gone.